Hey everyone, welcome to the video. This is one of the 6-game NBA slate for today on DraftKings, and I'm sorry this video is coming out a little bit later than usual, actually the past couple of days, but I think I was dealing with a 24-hour flu. Did not feel good at all the past 2 days. I've been going to bed a lot earlier, and I like to do a lot of my research the night prior to the slate, just to get that done out of the way, just to get the videos out earlier. Just wasn't happening. I did not feel good at all, but I feel pretty good today, so we should be back to normal. But as always, before we continue, if you guys could just leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPinell16. And if you're in spreadsheets about every single night for the NBA season, links are in the description below for my Patreon. And without further ado, let's get into today's slate. So, we got Luka and Giannis up top, but personally, I think there's a couple of better options that are right below them. I mean, I have obviously nothing against them. Giannis gets a really good matchup versus Portland, where they keep the game close. Maybe that's always a little bit of concern with Milwaukee. Luka, he finds himself in a really tough matchup versus Philly. Honestly, just give me the savings with Drummond and LeBron. I think these are both excellent plays, and if I can fit them both in my lineups, I certainly want to do so. But since Drummond's a little bit more expensive, we're going to talk about him first, just going down here in order. So no reason not to like Drummond versus Chicago. We just saw Miles Turner eat this Chicago team alive last night. I don't remember exactly how much he ended up with, but I think last time I looked, I want to say it was like in the late third or early fourth. He had like 54 fantasy points. I don't remember what he ended up finishing with, but he might have got over 60. He just absolutely smashed. I think he was like at 27 points and 15 rebounds last time I looked. So I can only assume he got 60 plus. I mean, they just got absolutely smashed by Miles Turner with Sabonis out. And Andre Drummond, he crushed Cleveland the past 2 games here, 61 points and 62 points, and I don't see why he can't do that again versus Chicago. And I will say, he played a ton of minutes in that last Cleveland game. I know you're probably thinking, yeah, overtime helped, but if there was an overtime, he played pretty much 44 minutes out of the first, 48 minutes of the game. He played the entire second quarter. So this is how his game went. He played the first quarter, he came out with like 4 minutes left, I think, and then he sat, and then came in the second quarter, played the entire second quarter, played the entire third quarter, played the entire fourth quarter, did absolutely nothing in overtime, which I don't blame him because, he's a big guy. I'm sure he was dead at that point. I don't know why he played so much. Maybe he was getting punished. I have no idea. But he did get a good cardio session, which was good for him. But I've never seen a guy play that much before. That was insane. He was just on the court the entire game. But he was absolutely smashing. He had 23 boards, 28 points. That was back-to-back 2020 games versus Cleveland. And I don't see why he can't do that again versus Chicago. They're a bottom 3 team when it comes to rebounding. They're 30th versus power forwards, 30th versus centers. He's at 1.4 points per minute, and 2020 should be very easy here versus Chicago, maybe even a 25-25 game. So absolutely love Drummond. If you can afford him, definitely get him in your lineups. Would I prefer LeBron if AD is out? Yes, but both are excellent plays at their price tags. So I like Drummond quite a bit, and also if AD is out, this price on LeBron's kind of a joke here. I obviously don't understand why he's only 10K. So he's been 11K for the past 4 games, and now Anthony Davis is questionable, and he's a really good chance of missing this game, so they price him down to 10K. Makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever, and if AD happens to be out, we can expect LeBron to be like 90% owned probably in cash games. This makes absolutely no sense to me at all. But hey, we're going to have to take advantage of it. He'd pretty much just be a cash game lock and really a GPP lock for me. I don't see how he doesn't smash. He smashed last night with 69 DraftKings points. He had 35 points, 16 boards, 7 assists. Just an absolutely awesome game. Kind of what we expected with Anthony Davis being out. And I don't see why he can't do it again. With Anthony Davis off the court, 38% usage rate, nearly 1.7 points per minute, only 10K. That makes absolutely no sense. Like Lucas, 12,400, and he's at 1.75 points per minute. You're going to give me a 2,400 discount on LeBron with similar numbers. Come on. It makes no sense why DraftKings would price him this low. And the matchup really isn't great, but who really cares about LeBron? Who's really going to stop him on OKC? Guys like Chris Paul, Gallinari, SG are going to try guarding LeBron. It's not going to happen. So I think LeBron's a smash play as long as Anthony Davis is out. Even if Anthony Davis is in, honestly, 10K is not that bad for LeBron. So you could look his way, and it would just really lower his ownership. So Drummond and LeBron, my favorite in this high-end tier, and they're both mispriced, I think. I think Drummond could be close to like 10,600, 10,700 in a matchup versus Chicago. Scrolling down a little bit, Nikola Jokic, this is just the GPP play only for me because I'd much rather just spend the extra couple bucks for Andre Drummond. But this is a smash spot here versus Cleveland, and the third worst defensive team in the league right now, and they've gotten destroyed by Drummond in back-to-back contests, and Jokic has been a little bit hit or miss this season, but he's shown his ceiling a couple times this season, and he had a hot stretch before his recent cold stretch as well, but it looks like he's warming back up again. He had 72 points versus Atlanta, 55 points versus Dallas, at 47 real life points versus Atlanta, 33 versus Dallas. So I do like that he's coming in with a little bit of a nice recent form. And I doubt he gets much ownership at all, especially when Drummond's just right above him, and so is LeBron. So I can't see too many people playing Jokic. And 6-game slate, it's not a small slate, but it's a smaller slate. So if you want to get a little bit different, you could definitely go with Jokic. He's at 1.4 points per minute, which is the same as Andre Drummond, and a 26.3% usage rate. Problem is, they are 12.5 point favorites, so we might not see. I mean, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't get 30 minutes in this game if they're winning pretty easily, so that could be a little bit concerned. But if you're playing Jokic, you might want to run it back with a Cleveland guy and just hope the game stays close. So I don't mind Jokic in GPPs, but I do prefer Andre Drummond quite a bit more. Let's see, scrolling down, I see Whiteside's now questionable. So he's going to be a game-time decision with an illness. So let's hope he plays. But if not, we'll talk about that. So let's see. Scrolling on the list here, don't really have too much interest in Lillard, Whiteside, and he's questionable. Ingram 8,400, that's fine. I mean, Derek Favors, I believe he's going to end up being out. Drew Holiday's going to end up being out, and with those guys off the court, he's at 1.3 points per minute, over a 30% usage rate. In the past 3 games, he's been pretty darn good. 56 fantasy points, 61 points, 51 points. Price came down a lot from yesterday versus New York, where he was 9,200. Now he's at 8,400. It's not a really good matchup versus Boston, but Brandon Ingram's a very good player. He's going to play near 40 minutes if the game's competitive. He's going to put up a lot of shots. He's going to be the main ball handler here. I wouldn't mind Brandon Ingram at 8,400. It's actually not the worst play in the world. He just won't grade out as the best point per dollar option, but 8,400 is not that bad of a price for Brandon Ingram if, Favors happens to be out. We know Drew Holiday's out as well. You could also look Zach LaVine's way in GPPs. He comes in at 8,300, but he's been on a tear recently. 56 points, 51, 45, 52. He's been playing very, very well. And actually last night, he scored 20 points in a row for the Bulls. I mean, he just took over that game. Yeah, he had 43 real-life points last night. He was hot from 3, 8 for 13, 14 from 23 from the field. He's going to play near 40 minutes every single night. And it's a really good matchup, too, versus Detroit. They rank 20th versus shooting guards, and on the season, he's at a 31% usage rate. 1.17 points per minute, which isn't great for this price tag, but that's why I'm only saying he's GPP play only, because when he's hot, that's obviously going to bump up a little bit. But just on average, 1.17 points per minute is not great. And he does have a little bit of a lower floor. I think there was a couple times he scored in the low 30s and higher 20s in the season, but I think he's a safe bet for 40-plus points versus Detroit. So I don't hate the idea of using Zach LaVine in GPPs. You could always play Drummond and LaVine and just hope this game, I mean, it's not the best. I mean, I don't know if you really want to game stack that game up, but I wouldn't. It's not the worst idea in the world. Let's see, scrolling down a little bit. Tristan Thompson had an absolute monster. I don't even know how many fantasy points he ended up with. I don't like Tristan Thompson. I just wanted to see 65 fantasy points. Yeah, he's not going to do that again versus Denver, but I was just curious because I know he was just absolutely tearing Detroit apart. Jamal Murray, more of a GPP play because I don't really like playing Jamal Murray, but price did come down a little bit the past 3 games, and he's just not a guy I really like to play. He's kind of hot or cold. He does have these upside games every once in a while, but he's also got a lower floor. I mean, 24 points versus Dallas, 23 points versus Houston, 28 points versus Memphis, 18 versus New Orleans, which makes no sense. That was on Christmas. 18 points versus the Lakers. He's a really hit or miss guy, but he's shown upside games before. 46, 52, 41. I think he had a 60-point game at one point in the season, but not really a guy I typically like to play, but this is an awesome matchup versus Cleveland, one of the worst defensive teams in the league. They rank 28th versus point guards. More of a hit or miss play. Not my favorite kind of guy to target, but if you think this game stays close, I mean, the Nuggets starters should be able to pay off their price tag. So don't hate the idea of using Jamal Murray, but not really a cash game play in my opinion. One of my favorite mid-range plays today is Tobias Harris. He comes in at 6,800, and this is a fantastic matchup for him individually, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But the main thing here is that Embiid is going to be out, and Horford and Harris and a couple of other guys like Josh Richardson get the main boost here, but mainly Tobias Harris. With Embiid off the court, he's got a 25% usage rate and is at 1.2 points per minute, which is highest on the team. In Dallas versus his player profile, which is a versatile forward, they're ranked 29th versus them, so that's second to last. So Tobias Harris at 6,800, I think is a safe bet for 35-plus fantasy points with the upside of more as long as he's hot. So Tobias Harris, like him quite a bit at 6,800, a little bit expensive, but the price did come down from the last game where he was 7,300. No Joel Embiid. I think it makes a ton of sense. So Tobias Harris, like him quite a bit. My favorite mid-range play on the day as of right now. Then you could also look at his teammate Al Horford, who comes in 100 cheaper, and I think he's still a really good option. Both guys are very good plays. Only 100 salary difference if you want to play both. No problem at all with that. And the price came up a little bit from the last game where he was only 6K, but I think it's deserved. I think that's just a little bit too cheap with Joel Embiid off the court. With Embiid off the court, he's got a 22.4% usage rate, 1.18 points per minute. So similar numbers to Tobias Harris, just not as high of a usage rate, but the points per minute rate's like very close, 0.02 difference. And they're going to play roughly the same minutes. I'd say Tobias Harris, he can play more minutes, but Al Horford should see about 32 to 34 minutes in this game, maybe even a little bit more if he's playing well. And Dallas does struggle with bigs, so I think Al Horford is a pretty solid play, but I would prefer Tobias Harris if having to choose between the two. Let's see, scrolling down a bit, there's not a lot of great plays in this price range. I want to see if they did an update on favors last time I looked. Nothing yet. I think he's going to miss this game, though. I mean, Favors doesn't seem like the kind of guy that's going to push it too much. So let's just assume he's going to be out for the portion of this video. But let's see. Where is Kyle Kuzma? Okay, Kuzma, he's at 5,400. So he's going to draw another spot start again if AD happens to be out. And he played 33 minutes, or 33 or 34 minutes. One side I was looking at said 33. DraftKings says 34. It must have been like 33 and a half. Either way, he played almost 35 minutes last night, and he had a 31% usage rate in that game, which is excellent. I believe that was second only behind LeBron, and he played very, very well. He had 37.5 fantasy points, 26 real-life points, shot 8-3, shot the ball 22 times. Loved the volume that he had. That volume is one of the more important things here. And I definitely sees a nice bump with Anthony Davis being out. Now, is the matchup very good? Not at all. OKC is very good versus Kyle Kuzma's player type and position. But when you take a guy like Anthony Davis off the court, we have to have interest, and they didn't even change his price much. He was 5,300 last night, gave him a 100 price bump. If he can score 30 plus points again at 5,400, I will take it. You know the defense is going to care much more about LeBron, so LeBron's going to be able to open up some space on the court. Kuzma should get some clean looks. I think he's a really fine play at 5,400 as long as Anthony Davis happens to be off the court again. Let's see. You could also look at Jeremy Grant with Paul Millsap being out. He comes in at 4,900. Now his price definitely came up. He was 3,300 in the last game. Drawed the start, had 34 minutes versus Dallas, and scored 34 points. So he was right as a point per minute guy. And yeah, he played a lot of minutes. Drew the start, and with Millsap off, he's still only at 0.76 points per minute. But this matchup is fantastic versus Cleveland, and I do think he can flirt with 30 fantasy points again, and if he gets 30 plus minutes. And at 4,900, if he gets 30 points, that's still going to get me there. I mean, it's not as great of a value when you're 3,300, but you can't get too greedy. 4,900 is not that bad versus Cleveland, so wouldn't mind using him at all. Not like some elite point per dollar guy, but he's a fine lower mid-range play. And let's see. Josh Hart, he's 4,800, so just assuming Derek Favors happens to be out, which really wouldn't affect Josh Hart too much. The main thing here is Jrue Holiday being out. But with Jrue Holiday out, he will continue to start, and he's been playing big minutes. Past two games, 33 minutes and 37 minutes. That game versus Chicago, he did get into early foul trouble, so it kind of hurt his upside a little bit. Or no, he got early foul trouble versus Utah, I think. Yeah, it was versus Utah, then versus Chicago. He did not, so he only played 27 minutes versus Utah. 33 minutes versus Chicago, which was a pretty tough matchup. Still had 28 fantasy points. And then versus New York last night, had a pretty good game, 37 minutes, 32 fantasy points. So, all right, got that clear. Now, the price has come up from the first time at 4,400. Then it went down to 4,200. Then it went up to 5,100. Now we're back down to 4,800. I still think that's a fair price for Josh Hart, especially if he's going to get 35 plus minutes in a competitive game here. And with Jrue Holiday off and Derek Favors off, he's at 0.95 points per minute. If you're going to give me close to 35, 36 minutes, you're pretty much saying he's going to get over 30 fantasy points. And at 4,800, that's not too bad. And these Pelican games tend to be high scoring just because they play at such a fast pace. They don't play a lot of defense. And Derek Favors is probably one of their better defenders. And if he's off the court, that's just going to lead to more high scoring. Now, Boston is a good defense, but I will say they do struggle with shooting wings this year so far. I think they're ranked 20th versus shooting wings, and that's what Josh Hart is. So there could be a little bit of a glimmer of hope for us. And, you know, again, like I said, if you're going to get mid-30s minutes, 0.95 points per minute, he's a feasible play to me at 4,800. I believe that game has a 226 over. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's got a 226 over under, which is one of the higher ones on the slate. Let's see, scrolling down a little bit. Gary Harris, so he's at 4,300 going up against Cleveland. Now, I will say he's one of the most boring players to roster ever because he does absolutely nothing. He just doesn't do anything. He's got a low usage rate, low point per minute rate. He's only at 0.64 points per minute. That is terrible. And he's only has a 15% usage rate, which is also terrible. That's almost as bad as PJ Tucker's usage rate. So it's pretty gross rostering Gary Harris. But he does grade out as a decent value play considering he faces Cleveland, who's a bottom 3 team versus guards. And he'll play big minutes, so you pretty much just have to hope he stumbles his way into 20 points. He's done it a couple times this season. He had 24 versus Indy. Then he had 22 versus Memphis, 29 versus New Orleans. He had a 36-point game versus the Lakers, 22 versus Minnesota, 24 versus Orlando. I think he can get you 20-plus points here versus Cleveland. And at 4,300, not a bad play in my opinion. So you could certainly look to him for some salary relief. And then you could look at JAMAL McGee if Anthony Davis happens to be out again. So he did not do that great last night, and they dropped his price a little bit. I mean, he really didn't see much of a boost at all. He only played 18 minutes, had 9 points, 5 personal fouls, 3 rebounds, 1 blocks, 2 steals, 18 points. But I'm willing to go back to the well here if Anthony Davis happens to be out. 20.2% usage rate with him off the court, 1.32 points per minute, which is excellent. And I would expect him to get a little bit more minutes tonight as long as he's playing well. And it's actually a pretty decent matchup down low versus OKC, who's mid-pack versus the centers. They are a very good defensive team, but they do struggle a bit with centers more than anything. And if he can push for over 20 minutes this time, I think he's a safe bet for 20-plus points at 4,100. So I do like that I dropped his price a little bit. And I think he can get you over 20 points and hopefully a double-double. So JAMAL McGee definitely on my radar. Now my favorite value play of the night, if Derek Favors is out, Jackson Hayes, he comes in at 3,800. Now the matchup is not good, but he played 29 minutes last night versus New York with Favors leaving the game early, had 39 fantasy points, 10 rebounds, 18 points. And the game before that, Derek Favors was in versus Chicago, 12 boards, 14 points, 38 fantasy points. He's been playing well recently. If Derek Favors is off, he could push for near 30 minutes in this game. And with Favors off the court, he's over a point per minute guy, so I mean, he just makes too much sense to me. The matchup is not that great, but I don't really care because he's only 3,800, should see close to 30 minutes. Over a point per minute guy, it just makes too much sense. And he's going to allow us to fit in guys like LeBron and Andre Drummond on this slate. So Jackson Hayes, you can certainly look his way. Now, one more guy, if Anthony Davis happens to be out, we could look RAJON Rondo's way. He comes in at 3,800. They dropped his price a little bit. He was okay last night for his price tag. He had 19 fantasy points, played 24 minutes, which I did like. I mean, the minutes were nice. And I would expect pretty much the same as long as Anthony Davis is out. And he's over a point per minute guy with AD out. And I don't expect too much, but I do think he can crack 20 points at 3,800. And it's not the worst play in the world. So RAJON Rondo, you could certainly look his way. And that's pretty much going to be it for this video, guys. Hope it was helpful. If it was, remember to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. Really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. I'm going to go get a haircut, and I'll see you guys in the next video.